unscheduled live here today with a spoiler-free review for the Homestead movie, which I actually just got out of the movie theater, and I'm in the parking lot. I like to do, you guys know that when I like to do these movie reviews for movies that I think preppers and survivalists will like, I like to do it right after I get out while it's still kind of fresh in my head. And that's what we're going to do today. So a couple things to start off with this is, so this is Angel Studios, same group that brought you The Sound of Freedom, which I thought was fantastic. It's a really powerful and moving movie about human trafficking. So check that one out. If there ends up being too much noise in the background, I'll close my windows. It's just a little bit warm. We're in Charleston here. So that one's a really good movie. I like Angel Studios. I like what they're doing. There's always a little bit of positivity, spirituality, faith put into their movies, and they do some really cool stuff. If you're looking for an experience that was different than Civil War, which that's a different production company altogether. That Civil War was A24 Studios, and anyone who saw that knows that like that was a kind of a bait and switch, right? Like they marketed it as if it was this movie about an American Civil War, but in fact that movie was actually a movie about hey James, it's good to see you. That movie was actually a story about war journalism. Just happens to be set in an American Civil War, but they don't really tell you much about it. Totally different. You're going to get kind of what you expect here with Homestead. Okay, so if you watch the trailers, you have an idea of what this is. What I will do to temper some expectations, I want to be real clear off the bat that if you're looking for like a lot of action and firefights and stuff like that, you're not going to get a lot of that in there. There's a little bit, but there's not a lot. So just be aware of that going into this. Preppers and survivalists, you are going to like this, and I'm going to explain to you why I think you're going to like this in just a second here. I want to give people just a couple more minutes to get in. But before I go into like why I think, I'm just reading your commentary. It's supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek poking for fun at movies that take themselves too seriously. Why I think that, before I get into why I think that the preppers and survivalists are going to like this movie, I think that the cinematography was pretty well done. The sound was really well done. The music was really good. I really liked the music in this film. The acting was, hey Deepu, thank you for joining us. The acting was okay. I mean, there's some good moments in there. I think the first 30 minutes of the film, I was having a little bit of trouble like finding believability in the characters, but it got better as it went along. Certainly didn't have any complaints. I came out of the movie satisfied with it. So let's go ahead and get into a couple things here. So this definitely is a movie made for preppers and survivalists. It's got a lot of themes that we talk about in the prepping community. So you've got different personality types at play. You've got the lone wolf preppers. You've got the preppers who think, you know, I'm just going to sit on my roof and shoot anybody that walks down the street kind of thing. And you've got people like myself and Lee, Cold War prepper, and Sassy Gal prepping, who are more, you know, empathetic, more come at this from a standpoint of we're going to have to take care of each other if an SHTF happens. Now, I know there are people, because I get the comments, you know, people leave me hateful comments about like, you know, unless you're kill or be killed kind of mentality, you're going to die. Well, that could happen if we have a SHTF situation, you know, and I'm okay with my fate if that happens, because as somebody who spent my whole life healing, I'm a trauma therapist by trade, as somebody who spent my whole life healing others and also a person of faith, the question I have to ask myself, and it's actually interesting because it's a major theme of this movie, is survival enough? Or what kind of world do you want to live in as a survivor, right? So you would have to, I think we're all would have to make some really hard choices if we had a situation like this where, and again, I'm not going to get into major spoilers, don't worry, you don't have to click out. If we had an SHTF situation, I'm not talking about like a storm. Those are usually temporary. We usually recover from those. I'm talking about something like a big event, like we were attacked in the United States. And that's really kind of what, this is not a major spoiler. This is like the first few minutes of the film. The movie starts with an attack on the United States. So let's say that happens, and we know if it's a real bad situation, a homeland war, right? A homeland war, we know that we're not recovering for 10 years at best. 10 years at best, right? Like something serious like that, we're not recovering for at least 10 years. So we would all have to make some really hard choices, right? So some of the themes that this movie makes you wrestle with are, when do you leave the city, right? When do you know, like, okay, this is not just a small isolated thing. This is a situation where it's no longer safe for me to be in the city. When do you, what do you do if hungry people show up at your door? Hey, Mickey, I'm talking about the Homestead movie that's out right now. We just got out of the theater. I'm giving a spoiler-free review on this. Happy Sunday, everybody. Yep, just reading your comments here. So what would you do if hungry people showed up at your door in an SHTF situation? We're saying there's no more grocery stores, right? There's no more, nobody's going to come back and refill the grocery store, something like that. Are you going to turn away a little old lady? Are you going to turn away a starving child? Are you going to turn away that neighbor that you used to go over to their house for barbecues? What are you going to do, right? And if you have this mentality that it's my family first and I don't care if we were friends before, I'm not judging you. I'm really not. I'm just saying that I don't think that I could be that kind of person. And if it means that I don't make it very far into the SHTF apocalypse, then I accept my fate for that. Because I can't get to that place in my head, no matter how many times I game it. Now, does that mean that I wouldn't defend myself? No, of course I would. But we're not talking about that, right? Those are easy choices. If somebody comes at you with a firearm and you believe that they're trying to cause you imminent threat, I think that I would step up to that, right? Based on my life experience and some things that I've been through. And I talked before about how I got jumped on the subway one time, and I've gotten into a lot of fights in my life, and I'm not a person of violence. I prefer to talk my way out of violence, but I know that when I've been in those situations, I will defend myself, right? And so I think those are easy choices, but what happens if it's not so easy? What happens if it's a little old lady that's at the gate of your community that's starving to death? What happens if it's, a child that's starving to death? Are you just going to be able to turn them away? Or are you going to share your resources with that person, knowing that it's taking away from resources that you had for your family, and that it's maybe going to shorten the amount of time that you could survive with the resources that you've had? Hard question. Again, I'm not judging anybody. I'm just telling you where I stand on. I know some of my friends that come on the channel have talked about this as well, that, when push comes to shove, there are some of us who are preppers who are going to do everything we can to try to help people who didn't prepare, right? We're going to do what we can, and it may mean a shorter lifespan for us, right? But as a person of faith, this is not my kingdom, right? My kingdom lies beyond this. My heavenly home is my permanent home, right? So none of us get to live forever. And if that shortens my lifespan, I think I accept that fate, right? These are the kind of questions this movie is going to have you wrestle with. A couple other things, just reading my notes. A couple other things for preppers to be thinking about with this, that are themes of this movie, are how is your group, whether it be just your family or if you've got a mutual support group or whatever you've arranged, how is your group going to deal with the aftermath of violence, right? Not all of us have, I'm not a soldier, right? Sarge is just a nickname. I've never had to take a life. I've had to commit violence in my own defense, but I've never had to take a life. How do you think the average person would deal with that kind of stuff? How would they mentally be able to keep functioning, right? So this is why Lee and Sassy Gal Prepping and myself talk about, you need to have some people in your mutual assistance group who are trained to deal with trauma. You need to have some kind of plan, because if it gets that bad, everybody's going to be dealing with trauma, and that can really disrupt the functioning of not just the individual but your group. So you're going to have somebody in your mutual support group that knows what they're doing with this. At minimum, mental health first aid, and you're going to need people with medical skills and things like that too, right? So final thoughts on this one. I hope that if you're a prepper or survivalist, I hope you check this one out. If you don't catch it in the theater, okay, it's probably going to come to streaming at some point, maybe in the next 2 months or so, maybe less. There is going to be a series, a streaming series that follows this, that picks up right where this leaves off. So they actually showed you some clips of that at the end of the film. So I'm kind of excited about that. I think that it's an interesting story. I love that it makes you think. I love that it hit on a lot of the points that we talk about in our prepping community about these hard ethical decisions, you know? So go check it out. If you're not a prepper or a survivalist, will you like it? I don't know. I'm a prepper, right? Like I can only answer for my group and my people. But I think that those of you who are, you're definitely going to like, this is going to resonate with you. And these are all the questions we're always like thinking about, always talking about with each other. And they do a really good job with it. So Angel Studios, nice job again. In fact, I don't think I've seen a film from Angel Studios that I haven't liked, that I didn't walk away feeling positive about the experience. So sometimes they open things up to investors and things like that. Maybe you're in a position where you can help them. They're a very small studio and they do the best that they can with the money that they've got and the budget that they've got. So if you're in a position where you want to invest in them, just look for that. A lot of times they'll advertise that stuff. I remember them talking about this about 2 years ago. They started talking about this Homestead project and showing a couple little clips from it and stuff like that. And I thought, oh man, that looks like it's going to be really cool. And it was done very well. So folks, I hope you're having a happy Sunday. Long-term midwife stuff for children. Yeah, so they didn't get into that, but I have a feeling, without getting too spoilery, I have a feeling that the series is going to get into some of that stuff, James. All right, guys, I hope you all, squad, I hope you're having a great Sunday. Thanks for letting me go live here for a few minutes for my spoiler-free review. I hope I convinced you to go check this out. Keep planting your seeds, keep stacking your silver. This is Prepping with Sarge.